It was supposed to be a simple hike. Scott's voice trembled as he recalled the chilling night. The sun was setting behind the hills of Skye, casting a red glow across the landscape. I was alone, miles from the nearest village, making my way back to camp. That's when I heard it. Soft music. It, kind of like the wind brushing through the heather, but it grew louder, clear. A piper? Out here? Scott paused, gathering his thoughts, the vivid memory haunting him even now. The tune was wrong. It wasn't a happy, cheerful melody like you hear at a festival. It was slow, mournful, but somehow compelling. My feet, they seemed to move on their own. I couldn't help it. I walked towards the sound, jawing like I had no control over my own body. I followed the music into the darkening night, down a narrow path, through mist-shrouded glens. The further I walked, the more intense the music became, filling my mind, blocking out everything else. That's when I saw him. He swallowed hard, his eyes wide as he described the figure. A man. Well, no, not a man. He stood on a jagged cliff, backlit by the last remnants of daylight. He was tall, unnaturally so, and cloaked in tattered blood-stained rags. His face was hidden beneath the hood, but I could see the gleam in his eyes, red like embers, as he watched me. His hands were thin, pale, almost skeletal, and they gripped the pipes with a strange, unnatural strength. Scott's voice faltered as he continued. The bagpipes. They dripped. They dripped blood. The closer I got, the stronger the scent of iron and decay became. I tried to stop. I tried to turn back, but my body just wouldn't listen. The music took over. Then, just as I reached the edge of the cliff, the piper, he vanished. The music stopped. I was left standing there, staring into the abyss below, inches from falling to my death. Scott shuddered, his hands trembling. I don't know how long I stood there before I regained control and ran, but I'll never forget that night, or that music. Tonight's episode. Oh, okay, now bear with me on this one because I could not find anywhere on how to actually pronounce this. So we're going to pronounce it once and then we'll call it by its other name. The Cuireach Fuileach. Like I said, I tried. But it is also known as the Bloody Piper of the Highlands. The Bloody Piper is one of the most feared and mysterious figures in Scottish folklore. Descriptions of the spectral piper vary, but they share one chilling consistency. The entity is always accompanied by a blood-curdling tune played on pipes that seem to weep blood. Physically, the piper is said to be tall and gaunt, almost emaciated, with long, bony fingers that grip his pipes like a vice. His clothes are tattered, ragged, and often soaked with blood, giving the appearance that he's fresh from battle or slaughter. Some say his face is hidden beneath a hood, or maybe even a cloak, with only his glowing red eyes visible in the shadows, while others claim he has no face at all, just a hollow, gaping void where his features should be. His pipes, always described in gruesome detail, appear ancient and weathered, often leaking blood that drips down onto the ground as he plays. The music is what defines him, haunting, hypnotic, and capable of luring those who hear it to their doom. Many legends claim that the pipes are cursed, enchanted by dark magic from the days of the clan wars. It was said that the piper is the restless spirit of a piper who died during one of those bloody battles, doomed to wander the Highlands forever, playing his sorrowful tune for eternity. There are countless theories about the origin of him. Some believe he was once a proud piper for a powerful clan, leading men into battle with his stirring music. But after witnessing the horrors of war, he went mad, turning his pipes into a tool of destruction. Others say he was a traitor, leading his men into an ambush, and now he's cursed to lure the unsuspecting to their deaths as punishment for his betrayal. Where does the Bloody Piper stay? The Highlands are his home, but sightings have been concentrated on the Isle of Skye, and I think I'm pronouncing that right, particularly around the old battlegrounds and the cliffs. He appears most often at dusk or during foggy, stormy nights, when the world is at its bleakest. These unfortunate enough to hear his piping are said to be drawn into a trance, following the sound until they reach dangerous terrain, often cliffs or bogs, where they meet their untimely end. Elaine, a local woman who grew up near Cullen Hills, shared a harrowing experience from her childhood. I was only 10, and my older brother Michael had taken me out for a late-night walk. We were wandering near the base of the hills when we heard it. the pipes. I remember Michael laughing, saying someone was having a late party, but the tune, well, it made my skin crawl. It was so sad, so heavy. I told him we should go back, but he wouldn't listen. He kept walking, getting faster, like he was chasing something. Elaine paused for a moment, as if she could still hear the ghostly melody. I've never heard anything like it before or since. It wasn't just music. It was like the air itself was vibrating with sorrow. It got inside you, under your skin. Michael's face changed the closer we got. He stopped smiling. His eyes glazed over like he was in a trance. He kept moving faster, pulling me along as if the music was calling him, drawing him closer. I saw him then, standing halfway up the hill, Elaine whispered, the piper. His back was to us, but he wasn't moving, just standing there and playing. His clothes, they were filthy, shredded, covered in dark stains. I didn't know at the time, but now I'm sure it was blood. The wind shifted, and I caught the smell, metallic, like rust. I knew something was wrong. I tried to pull Michael back, but he wouldn't stop. He was like a puppet on strings, completely under the piper's spell. Her voice cracked as she continued. I screamed. I begged, but he kept walking. It was only when the piper turned, just slightly, just enough for me to see his face, that the music stopped. Those eyes, red, glowing like they were burning through the mist. Michael collapsed as if someone had cut his strings, just crumpled to the ground. I ran to him, shaking him, trying to wake him up. He was out cold, and when he finally did come to, he had no memory of what happened. He didn't remember the music, the piper, nothing. Elaine shivered. But I do. I'll never forget that night. I still dream about it sometimes. The music, those eyes. I know what I saw. The next account comes from Alan, a fisherman who had a close encounter with the bloody piper while out at sea. His voice was gruff, hardened by years of working the waters, but there was a tremor in it when he described that night. The night he came face to face with the bloody piper. I'd been out fishing near the cliffs for hours, Alan said, shaking his head. It was getting late, but I wasn't ready to call it a night. The water was calm. The air was still, until I heard the pipes. At first, I thought it was coming from the shore. Maybe some local was playing for late night, Silida? Party, let's just say party. But the thought didn't make sense. It was loud, too clear, like it was echoing across the water, even though there wasn't any wind. Alan's brow furrowed as he remembered the strange tune. It was haunting, sad, but also angry, like whoever was playing had lost something precious, and they wanted revenge. It got louder, closer, and that's when I saw him. Standing on the rocks just above the waterline, his back was hunched, and he was swaying as he played. His clothes were tattered, and I swear I saw blood dripping from those pipes. The old fisherman swallowed hard, his hands trembling. The air around him, it wasn't right. It was thick, heavy, like it was pressing down on me. I could feel the weight of it in my chest. The music was everywhere, filling my head, making it hard to think. I tried to row away, but the sea, God, the sea, it started moving on its own. Alan's voice dropped to a whisper. The water around my boat started swirling, like there was something massive moving underneath it. I looked over the side, and that's when I saw them. Bodies, floating just below the surface. Dozens of them, their faces twisted in pain, mouths open like they were screaming, but no sound came out. One of them reached for the boat, its fingers brushing against the hull. I nearly lost my mind right then and there. He wiped his brow with the back of his hand, still shaken by the memory. I don't know how I broke free, but I managed to get the oars back in the water. I rowed like hell, and the further I got from the cliffs, the quieter the pipes became. By the time I reached shore, the music had stopped completely, and the water was calm again. Never gone back to those cliffs, not after what I saw. The third account comes from Maggie, a hiker who was traveling through Skye with friends when she encountered the bloody piper. Her story is one of an eerie isolation and the overwhelming sense of being watched. We'd been hiking all day, Maggie began, her voice steady but with an undercurrent of fear. It was late afternoon when we decided to make camp near one of the locks. The mist had started to roll in, thick and heavy, but that's not unusual for Skye. What was unusual was the silence. No birds, no wind, nothing. It was like the whole world had gone quiet. Then, we heard the music. Maggie's expression darkened as she described the sound. At first, it was faint, almost like it was drifting on the mist. One of my friends thought it was someone else's camp nearby, but the more we listened, the more we realized it wasn't coming from anywhere. It was just there, all around us. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I felt this weight in my chest, like something terrible was about to happen. Her friends wanted to go towards the sound, thinking it might lead to some kind of historical reenactment or festival, but Maggie had a deep, gnawing sense of dread. Something about the music didn't feel quite right. It was beautiful, but in a way that a funeral dirge is beautiful, haunting, and tragic. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that whoever was playing that tune was out there, and it was waiting for us. As the group packed up their belongings to investigate, Maggie, she saw him. He was standing out at the edge of the lock, just barely visible through the mist. He was tall, unnaturally tall, and his figure seemed to blend with the fog, like he wasn't entirely there. His pipes hung from his hands, dripping with something dark. It wasn't until we got closer that I realized it was blood. Her friends didn't see him, at least, not at first. They were still following the music, entranced by Maggie, but Maggie froze. He looked at me, right into my eyes. His face was pale, almost translucent, but his eyes, those glowing red eyes burned right through me. I screamed, and that's when my friends finally saw him. The music stopped. He didn't move, he didn't make a sound, but we knew he wanted us to follow. He was leading us somewhere bad. Maggie and her friends ran to the camp, leaving their gear behind. We didn't stop running until we were miles away. I'll never go back to that lock. I don't care if we lost everything. We're lucky we didn't lose our lives. The Bloody Piper remains one of the most terrifying figures in Scottish folklore. His mournful tune has lured many to their deaths, and his presence haunts the windswept cliffs of battlefields of the Highlands to this day. Is he a restless spirit, cursed to wander through the earth in search of peace? Or is he something darker, a creature born of blood and magic, forever tied to the land he tormented in life? One thing is certain. If you find yourself alone in the Highlands and you hear the soft, haunting notes of distant piper, turn back. Resist the music, no matter how enchanting it seems, for once you step towards that sound, there may be no turning back. Thank you for joining us tonight on Lunitar's Legends, Lore, and Lies. If you've enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share your own stories with us. Or tell me how we're supposed to actually pronounce some of this stuff. That'd be helpful. Who knows what legends lie in wait for us to uncover next. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, some things are better left in the shadows.